Hey y'all, today we're going to be making these two tiny snow globes that can be turned into charms or just used in a dollhouse. So let's get started. First I used some translucent clay and some white clay, mix those together, but it doesn't really matter since you're going to be painting it anyway. Roll it out to the thickness you want your base, and then I use this little polymer clay cutter, and you can find links to the clay I'm using and all of the supplies I'm using on the blog post link in the info box below. Measure it with your glass bulb. That's something I just found on Etsy a long time ago and wanted to make something with it and thought, oh, cute little snow globe would be nice. So roll out a little snake as thin as you want, and this is going to serve as kind of the stop point to keep your glass bulb airtight. If you want to put water or glitter or anything in it, you could always just leave it blank so that you can actually see what's inside the bulb, but that just depends on how you want your final thing to look. With this first snow globe base I'm making, I made it kind of look like one solid piece that just had a dip in it, but the second one had a more defined ring around the top. You can do whichever ones you want, just if you want the more defined ring, instead of doing this meshing on the outside and the inside, just do it on the inside with a large ball point tool, and that'll keep it airtight and make sure everything adheres. If you're having problems with it coming apart, using some liquid clay would also serve that purpose. It just depends on how much you want to work the clay by hand. Once you're happy with the sculpting of the base, you'll want to pre-bake this the base piece. I would suggest leaving the glass bulb inside the piece because sometimes polymer clay can expand a little bit, and it's always better to try to kind of ease it out of the baked piece than it is to try to fit the glass back into the baked piece. And just 5-10 minutes at the recommended temperature that's on your packaging, and it'll just give it some strength so that you can continue molding on top of it without messing it up too much. Okay, so for the first snow globe, I used a little bottle brush tree and just measure it the size you want it inside your globe, and then I cut it with some jewelry pliers, jewelry cutters, but some regular pliers should work too. It's real thin metal. And then you want to create a stump by that you can insert into your base by cutting away some of the little brush points. I'm just using embroidery scissors to do that. You You can use any color tree you want. My sister-in-law and I, we prefer pastel holidays because she and I love, you know, pastel colors, and so many holidays are bright orange and green and red. And anyway, we have a whole Pinterest board dedicated to pastel holidays. But so mine are pastel color. You could do any color you want. Make it your own. Okay, so once you're happy with your stump that it's long enough and it'll fit well in your base, go ahead and embellish it any way you want. I used some little nail art rhinestones and pearls. So whatever color you want, whatever shape you want, just keep in mind that if you're gonna put water in there, you can't really put water in the bottle brush tree ones unless you somehow seal the metal, because otherwise it'll just rust over time, unless you're doing it for, you know, a short little fun project, but don't expect to be able to wear it next year because the water will probably be orange or brown. I'm just using some craft glue, some E6000 glue. But you can use any glue on there as long as you're not putting it in water. You do have to use E6000 or another non-water-based glue if you're going to be using water in your snow globe. Okay, so your pre-baked snow globe should have cooled by now. Go ahead and pull the bulb off. We're going to be making the snow now. This is just plain white polymer clay. No translucent has been added. And go ahead and texture it any way you want. I used different dotting tools, and you could use a toothbrush or just any kind of a bristle brush. The sculpting kit that I had a bristle brush in it, so I used that. Do keep in mind as well to keep some sort of edge so that you can fit your bulb back over the base. And you don't have to worry too much about it now because I'll show you how to clean that up a little bit. But just to save yourself some work, try to leave a little bit of some space between the edge of your base and your snow. When you are happy with your snow texturing, go ahead and fit your tree where you want it so that you have a pre-made hole for gluing your tree in place. Once everything is baked, you can't bake your tree with your base because those bristles will catch fire. So just once you're happy with your snow and everything, use some liquid clay to place your snow in your base, and then go ahead and bake that. I went ahead and stuck the tree back in there just to make sure I didn't mess up the little pre-made hole whenever I added it. And then I also went ahead and made myself just a tiny little gold present before I baked it. It was just a small cube that I stuck on there, and then I painted it with some gold alcohol ink when I was all finished. I'm just using some E6000 glue. You can use whatever glue you want as long as you're not using putting water in your snow globe. To put my tree in place, everything is finished baking and is ready for final decorations now. After gluing your tree in place, go ahead and glue your glass bulb as well, and then paint your base whatever color you want. I painted mine gold with gold alcohol ink mixed with some black chalk pastel, which gave it this antiqued look that matched the antique brass metal chain that I had for it, and a bail that glued onto the little glass bulb, and then seal it with either matte or shiny glaze depending on your preference. And then moving on to the second globe that I wanted to make, snow globe I wanted to make, I wanted to make a pink and teal one since I had an Instagrammer who really loves those colors together for Christmas, and we'll go ahead and make those trees now. After mixing the polymer clay colors together for the shade I wanted, I went ahead and added a tiny pinch of gold mica powder shimmer in with the pink clay, what will be the pink trees, and then a tiny pinch of blue and white mica powders in the teal one, just to kind of give it a glisten in the light. I wanted to do 3 trees, but you could do however many you want, and just keep in mind the scale, and if you add water, it's gonna warp the size of them a little bit, it'll magnify them a little bit, so I really should have made these trees a little smaller than I did since I added water to this one, but just keep that in mind. So this is my second base and bulb. It's already sculpted and pre-baked just like the first piece. And I'm going to go ahead and make the snow like I did the first piece. And then I'm going to add the trees and bake it all together. Make sure to do this with your first one as well. It just makes sure that you'll have a nice tight seal around the snow, and it doesn't create any big pockets that may let your glitter or water leak out. Once you're happy with all of your sculpting, go ahead and replace the bulb and pre-bake it one more time. And then while that's baking and cooling, I went ahead and added some chalk pastel and mica shimmers to some liquid clay to create kind of some permanent snow on some of the tips of the trees. Be careful when applying it. I made mine a little heavier than I wanted. I lost some of the definition in the trees by putting too much on there. So just keep that in mind as you're working. And if you're going to be adding glitter snow or whatever to your snow globe, you may not even want to do this. But I was kind of experimenting with different looks, and now that I know what I want, I will probably go back and make a new one. Once you're happy with your liquid clay snow, go ahead and fully bake it according to your package instructions and let it cool completely. And then you could go ahead with the tutorial. I went ahead and I didn't video it because it was so simple. I took some of my pearls that I used in the earlier in the tutorial, and I painted them with gold alcohol ink and use those as kind of ornaments, and I'm just gluing those on now. Once you're totally happy with all the decorations and everything, go ahead and completely seal it in a nice thick layer of glaze, either gloss or matte, depending on how you want it to look inside your snow globe, and let it dry completely. I went ahead and added the little bail that came with the bulb and cleaned up around the edges to make sure that the bulb would fit nice and evenly. And then I just added some white glitter and some water. I should have added a little more water. I was trying not to overflow it by the displacement of the trees. So another reason that darn, I have to make another one. And then I just used E6000, which again is a non-water based glue, and put it real thickly in between the snow and the edge of your base so that it creates a watertight seal, and then hold it in place upside down for the time it takes to set. I held mine for 4 minutes, and then which is, the packaging says it takes 4 minutes to set, and then I held it, or I set it upside down in a small container to let it continue drying for another hour before I turned it right side up. Okay, so these are the two finished pieces with all of the glaze finished. This one doesn't have any water in it, it just has a little bit of the white glitter. And I decided not to make this one a charm, it's just sitting on my mantle, it's a little miniature decoration. And then this one I went ahead and added a chain to make it a little necklace. And I'm not sure if I like the water in it. I might make it without the water next time, or just make sure I fill it all the way. But as you can see, it's magnified a little bit. The inside is warped a little bit because of the water. So just keep that in mind whenever you're working with your scale. And if you liked this tutorial, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more tutorials like this, go ahead and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching.